Hello, everyone. My name is Samuel Garza, and today I'm going to be going over Chapter 4, Situation 4, titled Over the Workplace. So, as we know, discrimination in the workplace has been around for a long time. First, we need to understand what is the workplace discrimination and how and when does this take place. In the book called Conspicuous and Inconspicuous Discriminations in Everyday Life, in Chapter 4, Situation 4, there are a couple of examples which I'm going to be going over um, of how discrimination can have negative effect in the everyday worker. Discriminations can be perceived in the everyday workplace in many ways. This happens mostly because the workplace has different organizations that work as a hierarchy by making employees navigate up and down the ladder. And as we all know, we all have had jobs where like other coworkers, maybe not us, but there's coworkers that try to work really hard just to get a better position, right, at their job. So given the different roles an employee can take in the workplace, the employee can self-generate rewards by working hard, like I just mentioned, and obtain a promotion. But they can also face penalties due to human errors, right? So we're not all perfect. Um, just like products produced by a factory, they're a great example of the previously mentioned. The same way a product can become defective and some services might not meet the customer demands, therefore failing to materialize, an employee might not receive the treatment they deserve at work. And I'm sure like you guys have seen or experienced this type of examples. So the real problem employees face is that when the affected employee speaks up to address an injustice, he or she are often labeled as troublemakers. And this is unfair because, like, I'm sure sometimes people might not have the courage to speak up because they might feel like they're gonna be labeled as troublemakers or whistleblowers, and so they just stay quiet. So many workers tend not to speak up when they face an injustice. Chapter 4, Situation 4 gives examples of this type of discrimination experienced by Alibaba, Jeffrey, and Marianne, and this would be discussed in the following. Um, this will be discussed here in the next section. So Jeffrey's discrimination experience. The first example of discrimination experienced by Jeffrey, Alibaba's coworker. Jeffrey and Alibaba work together in different team projects. Jeffrey is perceived as a great team member by accomplishing his fair share of the work that has to be carried out as a team. He doesn't only conclude with his assignment on time, but also performs quality work in his specialty, and as well as attends group meetings and participates in the required activities. Uh, as for what I just mentioned, you can think that Jeffrey Wall is a great team member and he should receive recognition for his great work. However, even after performing great at his job, there is a chance that Jeffrey might not be recognized for what he did. Because there's always someone else that is in charge and he might not be aware of the hard work he put into the project, right? So, for example, here, Jeffrey is about to experience discrimination by fellow employees that are his teammates. Um, the teammate in charge of the group did not evaluate Jeffrey fairly. He did not get a good evaluation by other members of the team either. So he is affected by not being able to be entitled of team specific rewards, which will then impact his periodic reviews for promotion. When an employee is not fairly evaluated and is given a bad evaluation instead, he or she has the right to question his evaluation. And I'm pretty sure if you guys were in the same boat, and if I was too, I would speak up, right? Because that's not fair. Like, you put in a lot of work, and then just because someone thinks that you didn't do enough, then that makes you that's a discrimination against you, because even though you put in a lot of work, you are gonna be affected, right? It might impact your reviews for promotion, get a raise, and everything, just because someone else thinks different. So when Jeffrey talked to some of the team leaders, he was perceived as a rebellious member, and that's another way of discriminating Jeffrey, right? He was not only asked for proof of how he contributed to the team, but he was also, they made him look incompetent. Artists are like, just like if he did something wrong for speaking up. When the team leaders reviewed and changed their previous evaluation, Jeffrey felt as like if he had to thank them, right? As like if they did him a favor by changing their reviews. But since the beginning, there was a mistake, right? Maybe the team members did not like him, or who knows, but he was experiencing discrimination. The next example is about Marianne. So in the workplace, there tends to be a rightful citizen that will eventually take on the responsibility for the company's benefit, right? This is by bringing up any issues that might put at risk the organization's integrity. So Alibaba's former colleague, Marianne, pretty much blew the whistle on her unit leader to the upper management of the company. Although this was a good action, she was now in trouble and she was experiencing hostility from within her unit. If Marianne had not taken action, though, and let the upper management know about the issue, the company would have fallen into trouble. Marianne should have been recognized, right? Because she pretty much saved her unit of work by bringing up any issue to the upper management. But she did not get recognized by the management team, and when she needed protection, because now she was experiencing hostility from within her unit, even though she looked for protection from the upper management, they did not help her. They didn't give her the level of protection that she needed in order to continue working, and now she was labeled as a whistleblower. Since the management team did not intervene by helping Marianne, she was left with no other choice but to leave her position and eventually leave the company, which left her with no job. And this just happened because the upper management didn't do enough for her, even though she did a good thing for them, right? She pretty much saved part of the company by mentioning or bringing up any issues that they had within the unit where she was working at. So this was something wrong, and that was discrimination against Marianne, because she did something good. So they should have done at least that for her. They should have protected her from the hostility that she was experiencing within her unit. Another example is Alibaba's own experience of discrimination. So Alibaba faced two types of discrimination. The first one occurred when he made a purchase and received a damaged item. So if we think about this, like if you go to a store and received a damaged item, you're gonna go back and return it, right? You think that there's not gonna be any issue with you doing that, because I mean the customer service should be there to help you. But like, even though he took out of his own time to drive back to the store, he had to wait in a special line, because we know when you return something, I've done it myself too. You have to wait in a specific line to talk to a customer service agent, and then tell them what's wrong with the item and all that. So on top of everything, he had to pretty much swear that he was not the one that damaged the item. He pretty much had to say, like, had some kind of proof that to actually get the refund or exchange the item for another one that was not damaged. And we could say that was discrimination against Alibaba, because I mean he had the right to go and return the item without experiencing this type of behavior from the clerk working at that place. We know that customer service should be there to help the customer, and they were they were questioning Alibaba, thinking that he might have been the one that damaged the item. That's just not right. Like, if that happened to me, I would probably not go back to that store. Like, they're pretty much saying that I'm a liar. So that's what happened when Alibaba tried to return the item. Another incident that happened was that Alibaba tried to, so when he got change, he had extra $10 from the cashier, and what he did when he noticed, he told the cashier, and I mean that he was being a good person by doing that, right? Maybe another person would keep the $10 and not give him back, but he was nice, so he told the cashier that he had received an extra $10, but instead of the cashier being nice to him and thanking him by doing this, by taking action on this, the cashier got whoever the cashier was, they got upset, and the cashier felt like Alibaba made her feel incompetent in front of other customers. Um, if I put myself in the place of the cashier, yeah, I would probably feel a little bit embarrassed that I messed up, right? But I wouldn't blame it on anyone else. It was, I made a mistake, but the cashier made it look like, oh, they felt like if Alibaba was trying to make the cashier look incompetent in front of other customers. So the cashier had no right to get mad or get upset or anything. So now we jump to the part of the discriminator of the situation. So something common and unique about this incident is that the discriminators intentionally and unintentionally engaged in double discriminations against the targets. In the case of Jeffrey, he was not acknowledged for his great collaboration to the team, while at the same time he was asked to present documentation as proof of his work, what made him feel incompetent for his position. And I mean, if I was in his place, I would feel the same way. Like, I put in a lot of my time, and then at the end, like, you're not receiving the kind of you're not receiving the kind of recognition from the other teammates. So when he challenged the team evaluation, he was seen as a troublemaker. So that was discrimination against him. As for Maria and the whistleblower, she was put in a difficult position by not getting help from the upper management. The hostility from her unit made her remove herself from the workplace to avoid any work-related issues with other employees, since now she was seen as the whistleblower. If the upper management had acted, this could have been prevented. Due to this experience, Marianne was left without a job and with a reputation as a whistleblower, which is not a good reputation. I mean, like, when you try to do something good, that shouldn't be the case. As for Alibaba's own experience with the department store, he was mistreated by experiencing bad customer service when he was attempting to return a damaged item. Customer service is meant to be there to help customers, like I previously mentioned, and so that they have a great experience, which will pursue the customer to come back to the store, right? So that's what customer service is for. And this was not the case with Alibaba's experience. He felt as he was accused about damaging the item and trying to scam the company by returning a damaged item. The discrimination towards Alibaba continued on when he was asked different questions about the item. In this situation, Alibaba was put in a position where he seemed as the customer that is trying to take advantage of the system by maybe buying an item, using it, and then returning it back. So they made it seem like that when it was not the case. So in all the previously mentioned incidents, victims were misjudged and mistreated in distinct ways. These victims did not have to go through these experiences if the people, the discriminators, paid more attention to what they were actually doing. It was wrong for them to act the way they did. So in the previous scenarios, victims were not only discriminated but also misjudged, like I mentioned. And when Alibaba approached the store, for example, to return the item, he kind of felt as like if other customers were making assumptions, as if he was one of those exploitative customers who shamelessly return used merchandise when they no longer need it, taking advantage of the system, like I mentioned before. Alibaba was a victim by attempting to be a good person, right? She was trying to return the extra money so that the cashier wouldn't get in trouble, and when he walked away, he felt like he left no good image because the cashier was upset. For Maria and the whistleblower, she was not only faced with this. She did not only face discrimination from her unit, but he also lost her job. So on top of everything, she is now seen as a whistleblower, which left her with a bad reputation. And when asking for help, she did not receive the help from the upper management. So finally, in the case of Jeffrey, it seemed as if his classmates, or the group, not the classmates, but the people in the group, they did not like him, right? Because that's the most obvious reason why maybe they didn't evaluate him the right way. Um, so because even though he had done an outstanding job, they did not acknowledge him for his effort. Instead, they asked him to provide evidence. So for the compromise, there are several actions that the victims previously mentioned could have taken in order to maybe better the positions in those circumstances. For example, for Jeffrey, he could have shared his situation to as many people as possible. As possible, in order to avoid erroneous evaluations from his team leader. And Marianne could have confronted those who were hostile with her with a detailed list of the specific benefits of her whistleblowing act that she like brought up to the upper management in order to save her unit, or do a good to her unit. She could also have been more demanding when she asked for an intervention from the upper management. Instead of taking those actions, she decided to just move on and live quietly, not doing anything about the discrimination she experienced at the workplace. For Alibaba, he felt as people portrayed him as a troublemaker or system exploiter. He could have complained to the bystanders about how carelessly the store was selling items that were damaged, but simply he just didn't do anything. He just stayed quiet, and then he just went along, but he was being discriminated. After learning about these different types of discriminations towards different individuals, it has been shown that discrimination tends to happen often due to many variables that can take place based on each circumstance. I believe that when someone is facing discrimination, he or she should not keep it to themselves. Instead, they should bring it up to upper management, like Marianne did, and not be ashamed of that. Even though Marianne did not succeed when looking for protection from the upper management, she should have spoken in order to avoid leaving her job as a consequence of a rightful act that she took. And all these examples should serve as encouragement to speak up whenever facing a similar type of discrimination. So this concludes my outline for Chapter 4, Situation 4, and I hope you guys enjoyed the outline. Thank you.